Today we're looking at the native iPhone camera app versus the FiLMiC Pro app. Which one do you use? Since the iPhone 11's release, I've had a lot of questions about the native video camera app and how it compares to third-party apps, and in particular FiLMiC Pro. So I'm going to do a series of videos. This is the first one looking at the dynamic range. And just a warning, these will be tech-driven, geeky, film nerd type videos. So I'm using the iPhone 11 Pro Max and the native video camera. And then I'm comparing it to the third-party video camera app called FiLMiC Pro. And more precisely, I'm using the cinematographer kit, which is an in-app purchase that opens up different gamma color profiles, including flat and log. I often get asked when I would shoot log, and this is one of those kind of shots where I probably would. It's a high contrast scene, bright highlights and dark shadows. And this is the native iPhone camera, and I'm using auto settings. And this is the ultra wide lens. Now the same shot using FiLMiC Pro and the natural color profile. This is more or less the same look as the native camera, but you get higher bitrate. I'm shooting in FiLMiC Extreme, which is about 100 megabits per second. Now the same shot again using FiLMiC Pro, the flat profile. And finally the same shot now using FiLMiC Pro Log V2. The idea behind Log is it gives you more dynamic range. You can ideally see into the shadows and the highlights better. Now with some color correction. This is the native camera with some very basic correction. Really just pulling the highlights back primarily. And this is a pretty contrasty shot. And here's FiLMiC Pro Natural. Same kind of thing, just some very general correction. And now FiLMiC Pro Flat. Here I did correction with a little bit of grading using LUTs. I'm using the LUT Packs that I created for FiLMiC Pro. And then finally, here's FiLMiC Pro Log V2. Same thing here, some general correction and grading with LUTs. So now let's take a look and analyze the differences. The main thing you'll notice is the native camera app crushes the shadows. The shadow around the raft, it's like a cave. And then the tree line, you really can't see that bark back there at all, it just looks black. And then in the pool on the right side, you can't really see the tile along the side in the shadow areas. And this is really what's called a baked in look. So here's the Log V2 shot, and you can see into the shadows. You can see the tree bark, the brown color of the tree. The shadows aren't completely crushed. And then you can also make out the pool tile down in the water. Now here's a closer look. The raft shot is a subtle difference, but this tree shot is a bigger difference. And then look at the shadow on the fence from the bush. Just a more pleasing cinematic look. And the same thing with the tile, and then the shadow on the bush above that. And so here they are side by side, both color corrected and graded. Again, the trees in particular, but all the shadows in the shot are just so much more pleasing in the Log V2 footage. I do think in this particular shot, the native camera app holds the highlights a little bit better, primarily on the inner tube, but I could have dialed that back a little bit with FiLMiC Pro, although I did auto settings on both to try to make it as even as possible. So for this next comparison, I switched to the Tele Lens, and this is the native iPhone camera. And overall it looks pretty good, but again, the shadows are a little bit crunchy. This new Tele Lens in camera on the iPhone 11 has been greatly improved over its predecessors. And then here's the same shot, FiLMiC Pro Log V2. Again, I did auto settings on both to try to keep it even. And you can really see into the shadows a lot better with this shot. So here's some light color correction on the native camera app. Didn't need a whole lot, just pulling the highlights down a little bit. I do tend to find that smartphones often will overexpose a little bit. And I think Log V2 does that a little bit as well. Almost like it's built-in ETTR, exposed to the right. I don't expose to the right with FiLMiC Pro Log though. I think the computational imaging in the app is doing it a little bit. And corrected and graded, this is a pretty nice looking shot. And now the differences here, primarily looking at these shadows again. Pretty crunchy there around the hot tub and the pool. And then around the inner tube, life preserver, crunchy shadows there too. And then Log V2, the shadows are looking really good. Highlights a little bit crisp, especially on the inner tube, but the shadow there looks good. And so here's a closer comparison. looking at the hot tub shadow and then the pool. You can really see the difference there. And the same thing with the shadow here. Although again, the float is a little bit crispy, a little bit hot. I did auto exposure, so I could have dialed that back just a little bit. And here's the graded look. Pretty subtle differences in these shots, but I just like having that control in post-production that shooting log gives you. You can crush the shadows down, or you can make it a lower contrast look. And you could bring the shadows up on the native iPhone footage, but since it's a baked in look, you will tend to get more video noise. All right, one more example here, and this is a pretty common thing you'll run into shooting video, and that is having a brightly lit window behind you or behind a subject. And a quick note here that smartphones have made incredible advancement, because just a few years ago, you really couldn't get this shot, period. If you wanted the window to be exposed, the subject inside would be completely dark. Or if you wanted the subject inside exposed, the window would be completely blown out. So no matter what app you're using, you have much better dynamic range today than we've ever had before. So this first shot is the native camera app. And like the ones before it, it's just a little bit crunchy. The shadows get pretty dark, and I'm mainly talking about on the plants in the window. And so here's FiLMiC Pro Log V2, and you can instantly see a lot more into the shadows. And now corrected and graded. The native camera app, just some subtle correction and a little bit of white balance adjustment, and this looks pretty good. However, compared to the Log V2, here's ungraded and now graded. So I did correction and grading using my LUT Packs. And by the way, this was all done in Adobe Premiere Pro using Lumetri Color. There's a link in the description for my LUT Packs if you're interested in checking those out. So the differences here, looking at the shadows again, are the darker areas of the image. The exterior on both look pretty good. And now here's Log V2, and you can just really see that plant much better. And same with the pot there too. And here's side by side, no color correction or grading. You can really see the difference here. And then here they both are color corrected and graded. Look primarily at the potted plants, especially in the Log V2. You can really just see the detail in that image. Remember too, beyond the ability to shoot log or flat with FiLMiC Pro, you can also shoot with higher bit rates. That alone is really pretty much worth it. And then of course you have full manual control. You can set your shutter, your ISO, your white balance, etc. With the native app you can only lock it, you can't set it. One thing I did notice in this test, shooting log with the ultra-wide lens, it seemed to create more noise, and I think because of the slower f2.4 aperture. The faster aperture wide and tele perform better. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments what you like to use. To learn more about smartphone video and mobile filmmaking, be sure to check out the other videos on our channel. Or consider enrolling in one of our online courses. Master the FiLMiC Pro app and learn about smartphone video and cinematography. And we also have a filmmaking podcast. Links are in the description. Look for other comparisons in this series, including stabilization, skin tone, and whatever else I come up with. Again, both these apps are great. Use it however you want to use it, but there are differences, so depending on what you're shooting, just use the best app for the job. This is Blake Calhoun. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.